Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. It is May and I'm back, and really let me do my housework first. First of all, you can book a reading at karenrontowski.com or psychicstandup.com. I got some comedy dates coming up in Syracuse, and it's all on my Instagram. And also, you can join my Patreon. We have a $3 level. That is the card of the day. You get the card of the day in one class. I have a $5 level where you can just support the podcast for $5 a month, and you get nothing. That's my marketing business plan. You get nothing for $5. You get tapes of the Psychic Stand-Up Show when it comes out. $10, you just get 4 classes, and $15, you get the card of the day, 5 days a week, and you get the classes. And so anyways, last week, you all know, it wasn't quite paranormally, but it was all about the boss. And hopefully it helped anyone if they had a grieving pet. And so just the first part of this, we're going to talk a little bit about the boss, and then I'm going to pick my best buddy, Sonya King's brain. Sonya, thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. 2022 is, remember when we wanted to get out of 2020 and then we wanted to get out of 2021? And now it's just like, let's forget all of it.
Those good old days. Yes. Those good old days when we just thought it was tough.
I know. So everyone that heard knows that you were right there for me more than anyone when all that went down with the boss. And we're just going to talk about this a little because it's strange. It all happened in such a synchronistic way, and now feels worse than before, doesn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And tell the people why for you it's hard.
Well, so the boss and I, we were pretty tight, right? So he would just pop in whenever. Sometimes he was funny. Sometimes he let me know that you needed something, and sometimes he just popped in to tell me how great he was. And
I remember one time you texted me that he just popped in to tell you he's been very busy.
Yes. Yes, he was always into something. And by the way, it was just always a bonus when he got to bite fingers. That was fun.
Well, I started so people that heard the podcast know that first day I could hear him clear as anything. And there's still little synchronicity things going on, but it was, I bought a little book and I wrote it. In fact, the lady downstairs was like, you should write that and sell it, but I don't think it's a thing like that. But I thought I would write a diary as though I was speaking to him about, remember the time I first got you, and remember the time this. And then I said, I'm going to make a list of all the people you bit. And he just, that was the happiest thing to him. I started with the little girl he bit in the airport, and then there was no more children. And he was like, she was out of bounds.
Right. It was always a lesson for the people, wasn't it?
Yes, he was never.
It was always a lesson.
He was never wrong.
No. It was. They should have followed instructions. They should have known better. But I just know that, so why it's harder for me now because, let's see, we have known one another, you and I, for over 10 years now.
Because of the boss.
Yes, that's how we met. And because of that, I've known him for over 10 years. And I was so fortunate to be able to be with him, so many times when we were able to get together, do shows together, what have you. But, even across the country, he would just pop in and I would feel his presence all the time. And now that he's no longer in his, extremely handsome body.
Yes, the cutest dog in the world.
Yep. Since he's not in that body anymore, he doesn't necessarily need to pop into me the way that he did before. And he's busy healing. So the thing that is important for him right now is to be able to work through all of the physical pain that he felt, physical discomfort, I should say. And he was a sick little guy for a long time.
Yeah.
I would say this last year, you've really been through an awful lot with him.
Me and my bank account, no.
Yes.
And
yes,
he thinks he thinks it's funny that I'm sitting here with about $1,000 worth of medication that will never get used.
He always thought that the things that made you the craziest were the funniest.
Yes.
So, yeah, whatever it was, if he would just laugh. Yeah, he still does have such a great sense of humor. I think that's important for people to know too. Animals, once they leave their body, they are still that soul, just like people are. Mm-hmm. And the things that animals have taught me through the years is that they look at death as part of life. So they're in a body and then they're out of a body. Then they're in a body and they're out of a body. They're typically not afraid of death. I'll say typically because I wouldn't ever want to say anything, across the board, this is how it always is. Because as soon as I do that, one's going to come along and go, oh, yeah?
That's how they do it.
Yeah.
And
so anyway, the boss does not need to pop in with me like that the way that he used to. He doesn't do that the way he used to because he's taking care of his needs. He's healing on a soul, on in spirit. He's healing, and so yes, I do miss those frequent visits.
It's like a funny neighbor coming over to borrow a cup of sugar all the time.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So a quick question. So, this could have been, I believe it was his time. And that was that. We both knew that. We both knew that when I was in Los Angeles that he was going to get me here, and then it was going to be iffy. We all felt it was iffy once we got here. But I didn't have any doubt he was going to make it here, and I don't think you did either. There was a lot, you may not be able to answer this, but there was a lot of medication that could have made things easier for him. And it was a fight every day. I'd try to give him his pills every day. That was a fight. He'd bite me every day. And then every night I'd brush his teeth and he'd bite me when I brushed his teeth. Mm-hmm. And why would he turn down the medication? Would it be he knew what was coming? Or would it be, I know some of it was like he just didn't like what it tasted like. But there was some stuff that could have made that an easier journey. Do you have any vibe why? Because I know they stop eating maybe because their system isn't working right or they're trying to slow it down. But even you taught me to give them that what is it, Fiocox?
It's called Fiocox Max.
Yes, and he's been taking that for about 10 years, and then I had a whole bag of it, and I gave it to my whoops, sorry folks, that's my sister's text message. I gave it to my brother-in-law who thought it was treats, gave it to all his dogs. All his old dogs were jumping over things and they were like, what is going on? So it really helped the boss. If you have an old dog, look that up. Phycox Max, Phycox Max. But he stopped taking it and I was like, dude, this could make things easier. Is there any feeling on why he would do that?
Yeah. So are you talking about on the trip itself?
On the trip itself, probably 2 to 3 months before when we were like, the date was set but I didn't know where I was going. And it was just like, get rid of everything so the stress started. The stress got really big a month before, but 2 months before it was all getting itchy. And he kind of was like, yeah, I'm only eating chicken.
Yeah. Yep. So, one of the things that he was clear about, and I don't remember if we talked about it before he passed or after. But his purpose, he felt like the last thing that he was doing for you was to get you from California to New York. It was his mission, his last mission with you, really, to get you to where you needed to be, and to be your companion and your friends, and just to also to kind of, your focus has always been on him to such a degree that even in that the trip from California to New York, a lot of it was making sure he's okay. A lot of it was the focus was on him and the things that he needed. And so that's part of his purpose with you, was to, the kind of the last gift that he had for you was to help to get you to where you needed to be. So there's something else too that, as I listened to your podcast the other day, the last one that you did, and really think about something that I wanted to clarify. It's interesting because even so I'm an animal communicator, but I have other animal communicators talk to my animals, and I talk to their animals. And the reason we do that is because we can get so emotionally invested, just like anybody else, so that the things that we get, I don't know, they could be accurate, but we question them, just to get some outside feedback on what's happening with our guys.
Because you're so emotionally connected. In fact, that's how you, for a minute with the boss, you were like, well, hold on a second. When it was that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because the boss that day, and the couple days leading up to that, that's exactly how I felt. So, he's your guy, he lives with you, but the fact that I am so close to him and, just have loved him so very much, it was extremely hard. And I had to really put in more effort than typical to be able to be clear on what it was that he was giving me. And also I had to be very clear on what I was asking him, because I did realize this, that toward the end I had asked him if he wanted to go with you on your first trip that you were going to make.
Yes, and this was after we had gotten here. Yes. And I'll just preface this, because he had about 2 nights earlier, he had a coughing fit where he looked at me and I was like, okay, I know. And then I contacted you the next day, and that's when I had 2 trips to Seattle. Go ahead.
And so he did say, so my question, so since we're talking about animal communication, I wanted to point out that a mistake that I made was to not ask the question in a clear enough way so that he gave me the answer to the question that I asked. But what I should have asked him was he going to be able to go?
Okay. Hold that 1 second, because I want to, this is a perfect place. And I want to insert something here, because I want to say, first of all, you were the best friend a person could have in this situation and the best animal communicator. And I'm going to throw this in because I think to anyone that listens to this show that is intuitive, and then I wanted you to get right back to the question that you asked, because that is that's even important in tarot. So it's a perfect setup. He was, after the day we were supposed to go on the first trip, that was when he got so sick and he couldn't poop, and then he started throwing up, and it was obviously that this was an emergency. I was in the car. I had to drive an hour, but I will tell people, in the car, in my head, someone said, He has a blockage. It's time to put it down. So whoever that is, his guides, my guides, or something, it really was clear. I tried to deny it, but I had sent you a text. You were out or something, and I was like, it's time. Okay, so now we're going backwards 2 days before when I had called you and you were like, he's on one trip, he's the other. Go ahead and continue what you were saying about you had asked him a question, but it wasn't clear. Go ahead and continue that.
Yes. So that when you communicate with animals, it's so very important that you ask the question that you want the answer to, because they will answer you. It's important. The clearer that you can be, the clearer the answer is going to be. And so, maybe I would have never thought of that if it wasn't time for him to go. Maybe that would have never occurred to me, and I wouldn't not have revisited that. But I do think that it's important to say that it was something that I realized that I had asked him that he wanted to go. And the answer to that was yes. But the answer to that is that for him, his attitude was always, of course I'm going to go. It's my job. So while you were traveling because you had a job to do, he also had a job every time he went someplace. He put on his little red vest and he was at work.
Yeah.
And it was very, very important to him. And it filled him up in a way that, he told me many, many times that he chose you because he wanted this life, that he wanted to go all over the place, that he wanted to have something kind of concrete. This is my job. And aside from, you would think his job was biting fingers, but no, it was...
Well, just
he would heal so many people all the time.
Oh my God! Yes,
he made people so happy, and he helped to raise their vibrations, their energy, just by being around him,
and just by what he looked like. People have seen the pictures, and they have seen the look in his eye. That is, he has a. That's the thing. That's why we all can't understand why someone would harm a dog, because when you look in their eyes, there's something so real there. But in the boss, there is a look that's smarter than all of us. And I just want to throw this in for a second. I'll never forget one day I had him and I was in like Target and all these little kids ran over. They were all a family and they said, "Can we pet him?" And I said, "Well, you can't because he's got his vest on." Really, I'm thinking kids can't. No kids can pet him. But I was like, well, he has his vest on and he's working. And there was silence. And then the other kid said, "What time does he take a break?" And we're going to come back in later time also to talk about dogs and their jobs just in general. But yes, that was his job. And in fact, this was something that I talked to my therapist about. And she was like, "No, you were right." And you were like, "No, you're right." Because when it came time to put him down, the vet was very clear. She's like, "I can maybe buy you a day, but I think he'll be in more pain." But I was, because of who he was and who I was, even in the time of knowing I had to let him go, I was thinking, do I do it here or do I do it in Seattle? And then I felt so guilty because I was like, it didn't even occur to me to cancel the trip because he was always like, "No, I go with you." There was no him not going. And then I thought, my therapist was like, "No, that could have been torture for him on the plane. You did it right." But exactly what you're saying, he said, go ahead, I'll let you pick up where he was telling you which trip he could go on.
Yes. So he said that he wanted to go on the first one, but he was not going to be able to go on the second one. He was not going on the second one. And he was very clear about that. The other thing that he was clear about is that he had to make it time that when you were going to help him to transition, he had to arrange it so that it was so definitive, so clear at the time that you didn't have a choice.
Yes. And it was.
Yes. And what he said is that he said that you would find an answer for everything, unless he made it so there was no answer for anything.
Meaning I would hem and haw and not do it unless it was absolutely clear.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was him, but I knew that voice going there. I knew that it was, and I honestly didn't think it was going to come up that fast. So he was exactly right. And then, what happened after, and then we'll take a break. And you can comment on this when we come back, was the vet had said, because he couldn't stop spinning because there was a blockage and he couldn't go poop. And we kind of thought he was constipated, but she was like adamant, no, because she said, sorry if this is gross for people, but she said he did not have any, when it's constipation, they don't have trouble with me, going in and feeling around. And she said, so that was when it was very clear that he didn't have any trouble with that. And she said he spun and spun and spun. And then when I made the decision, he settled down. And at the point I saw him, they put you in the little room and they give you time before. And she put him in my arms and he was so calm. And we're going to take a break right here because this is getting emotional. We'll be back on the other side for part 2. Hold on.
Greetings to all the listeners of Paranormal Karen. This is Ryan Singer, stand-up comedian, host of Me and Paranormal You, paranormal investigator with our friend Karen, and creator of Crystallize, the photo identification app for crystals. I'm so excited because the app is available for free download on iPhone or Android now, right now. You can look up info on your favorite crystals in our 300-plus crystal guide. You can start your personal collection, keep track of your favorite crystals. You can look up info on ethical sourcing. You can go to our directory and find crystal shops near you and get directions to those shops. Oh boy, all this is free. We also have a premium section. So if you are a premium subscriber, you get unlimited photo identifications and an unlimited personal collection size. Coming soon, we're connecting you with ethically sourced vendors so you can feel good about feeling good. Download Crystallize today.
Okay, so because you think, but he's laying here, and when she handed him to me, he was so calm and just put his head on me like he used to when he was little. Mm-hmm. And I said, look up at me if it's time. And that was the only time he lifted his head. So I asked you, if this blockage was so bad, how did that moment come about? Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that he had shown me at the time. So, yeah, I remember when we were, leading up to this. Of course, I didn't want for him to, be gone. I didn't want that to happen. And so I'm like you, even though I can communicate with him, there's that other side of me that in my head is going, oh, maybe it's just constipation. Maybe, whatever, all these, like you were doing, all these other things that it could be. That would end up with him being okay.
He had 9 lives. He beat death so many times that we were like, maybe just a laxative. Yeah.
Yes. And so what he'd shown me that was different this time was it felt like a band around him. So it was below his ribs. So from his ribs up, it was okay. From his ribs down, it felt like this pressure. So like if you want to say a band, I mean from all the way around his little body. It felt like there was a great deal of pressure, and it felt like it was pressure from inside out. And it didn't feel like it was going to budge, and it didn't feel like it was something that could be removed.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have put him through any of that. And
right.
She said mass, and I heard blockage, and blockage is what you sound like. Same word, same thing, different word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he knew, and he made it, the way that he orchestrated this was in such a way that you didn't have a choice. And you are able to say, no, I would not, I would say no to surgery. People are different, and they get to where they are intended to go. they go down different paths. There are some people that will say, I don't care if he's 18. I love him. And just a few days ago, he was running around, bossing me around. And I'm going to do everything. If it's surgery, we're going to try it.
And I'm going to add something there. I was very, people spend 18, 20,000 on their dog. And I'm going to be very clear. I was very kind of lucky, which was the most horrible thing turned out to be luck, which is he got his teeth cleaned when he was 4 and he had a stroke under anesthesia. So the rule was this dog can never have anesthesia. Even when I got his teeth cleaned and they used light twilight sleep, the dentist was like, no, never with this dog. So that was very, very easy. That was never, operations were never an option with Courage because it would just be the end.
Mm-hmm.
So other people have a much harder decision than I did. Go ahead. I won't interrupt you.
Yes, no, and you know what? Everybody has to get there on their own route. I mean, that's something that the animals have taught me is that each animal is their own. It's this unique soul, and they're connected to a unique soul that is their human. And so what's one of the things that, they don't even though it's funny because we know the boss and, he really earned that name, but animals don't judge. Although he's been very funny about, judgment throughout his life of the things that he says about that. But I really think that those things were for our benefit because we had such a great sense of humor.
Yes, I'm going to insert a story there really quick. I had 2 neighbors that used to take him out if I had long trips, and one of them was very secure, and the other one was really having a hard time. And he said he told you once, both of them took him out. One took him out at 8:00, one took him out at 10, and he told you, he said, the first one was fine, and he said, I let the second one take me out because she needed to feel like she was my friend. Which isn't a judgment. It's actually true. This person got great joy out of Courage eventually liking her.
Yes. Yes. The cool thing about that is that animals know what we need. And they also know what we're capable of. And sometimes they do the very thing that push us to what we think is beyond our limits, because they see something in us that we're not quite ready to see just yet.
Yeah.
And, it's their purpose to help the humans move forward, just as a whole. So wildlife, they go about that business from afar and move, human race forward the best of their ability. But the domesticated animals, the ones that live with us, of course, they choose the people that they live with to help those people move forward in whatever way that is. And so you can have, so Courage lived with you, but he really did affect all the people that he came in contact with. And that's what animals do. They have an opportunity and they take it. And they really do work to move people forward first and foremost.
And I told the very strange story of how I got him at the pound, and it was sort of like another synchronicity of how he was mine. If I had not gotten him, if something had sort of messed that up, you once said to me, I would have got him in another body. Does that make sense? Do I have that right?
It does make sense because the soul, they can go in and out of the body at will. And so can ours, but we're not that good at it.
It's happening. It's happening a little bit now with walk-ons, but we're not as good at it as they are.
Yes, animals can do that as well. They have those as well. But yes, you're absolutely right. So, but let's just I describe it this way because in my mind, this is how it just kind of makes sense to me. So that picture this, like on the other side, everybody's in spirit, right? And the foreman or whatever they are come in with this list, and they're like, okay, all right, let's see, who are we sending to Rontowski? Karen. All right. She's kind of needy. So
she's all over the place.
Yes, and she's gonna do some great things. She's gonna travel all over the place, and this is what she needs. And as they go down the list of the needs, and here's Boss in spirit going, yeah, I got this one. I got it. She's mine. And I've been waiting for her. And anyway, then it's in my mind. That's how this happens. Now, I would like to say, well, the animals told me that's how it works. They kind of did, but not like that. I mean, but that's kind of the way that I interpret it. The way that they explain it is on the other side. They choose their people. They come to their people, and it's with great purpose.
So he gave you the thumbnail sketch.
Yes. Yes. And so that's how it makes sense to me and how, I think it works. And so, yes, he wanted to come to you. He was waiting for you to be ready. And when you were ready, he showed up. If you're not ready, he doesn't show up. And if you're ready and somehow things, let's just say on that particular day that you showed up at the same time that everybody else did. Well, maybe, that would be worked out somehow that you still ended up with him. But he did it the best way possible, which is to get the time goofed up so that, you didn't have to compete with everybody.
Right.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know how deep you want to get into that, but let's just say he did come into that body because he was waiting for you. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that little body got adopted by somebody else, but you were his mission. He would be able to pop out of that body and pop into the body of the pup that you found.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought. Okay. Not the story I told you earlier, which y'all will hear on the, if you're on the Patreon, you'll hear that with the Monique episode. But last night, I went out on a date with a guy, and I was like, I don't know. And then 10 minutes into the date, I said, do you have a cat or a dog? And he said, a little while ago, I had the dog of my life. And I was like, oh, he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he knew, and he had a similar story. And we know someone that has a horse. That she sends me pictures. I don't know if it's okay to say the name, so I'm going to just say hello out there. Both Sonya and I know who we're talking about. And that is, she knows, that's her courage.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when we have the dog or horse of our life, not to jump off, but tell me what happens, because courage now is probably going to pick or be the next one in my life. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. So people and animals can go through multiple lifetimes together, and just like people can. And so I've heard mediums talk about humans where, families or friends that are really good friends, through lifetime they're together. They kind of travel like as a pack, yet they can their personalities are different and their roles are different. So like one time somebody could be a mom, the next time they're the son. It something like that. Well, it's similar to animals with people in that, they can be a female or a male. They can also choose to be a different animal if they'd like. While we're talking about it, let me just say this. Somebody has asked me recently if animals can become people, and unanimously the animals kind of say, why would we do that? So animals really are the higher species. So we've got that all wrong. Those people that think like, oh, it's just a stupid stupid dog or whatever. They're, you know, they're just not there yet. They're not understanding the opportunities that they're missing. And, so anyway, animals, yes, can choose, to come back, and when they come back, and, yes, so that's very possible. It's possible, lifetimes together, but also to return in the same lifetime. Yes, that's possible.
Well, when I first met you, and you were helping, I don't know if you remember, but Courage was so sick, and you knew that something was in my house. I was in that haunted house, and there was so much stuff flying around. Mm-hmm. And you said, I don't know that I've heard this before, but he says he'll come back if you need him. Now, there was an exit point that happened where he got bit by a tick, and they were treating him as though he had Lyme, which was so dramatic and crazy. But it was also, the vet did the right thing. This was one of the first vets he really bit. And the vet had done the right thing. He treated him, he said, listen, we're going to treat him as though he has Lyme, which was this intense treatment. And I always wondered if that was the moment where he was saying, hey, if I exit this point, I'll come back. But I'm hoping, because you were like, I don't know if I've ever heard a dog say it that clear. I'm hoping that he meant he would come back in this life. And when he came, like that immediate, when he had passed or he was around me, it was almost awkward. He kept showing himself as huge with his beautiful little tiny face, but his body was huge. Like he was like a bear with Courage's little tiny face. And you kind of helped him. It was awkward. What was that?
Well, that's because, anybody that ever met the boss knows that he was so tiny. He was just so adorable, but his energy was huge. And he took up a lot of space. And so it's not surprising to me that what you experienced was, either a combination of how he experienced it himself, but also, that you're now seeing the space that he took up and the vibrancy that he has. So it's, you're accustomed to him being little. And it's funny too, because I told you before that when he would pop into me, his voice would sound like Michael J. Fox.
Yes, with a Bill Clinton accent.
Yes. And so, the fact that he sounds, bigger and even more powerful, I just think that he doesn't have the need to be contained anymore. And so what you're experiencing is his true power, the space that he truly takes up.
Well, you knew that there was a husky that would go by, and he did not have to be anywhere near the window. He didn't have to see. He hated this husky. He would start barking and going crazy. And one time I said to you, what is this about the husky? He didn't like huskies anyways, but he said, it has to do with a past life. And then I said, ask him what that's about. And he said to you, I don't want to talk about it. And he looked, I was like, Courage, are you coming back as a husky? Because he kind of looked like a husky.
Yeah. There is one thing that I wanted to tell you about, is that my mom passed away not quite 2 months ago.
Yeah.
She passed away on February 2nd, and it was very, very difficult, and it still is difficult. And in those first few days was just overwhelming. And one time I was laying down. I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but I was laying down. I was going to sleep, and I just felt so sad. And it was during a time where I couldn't stop the tears even if I tried. It was just so fresh. And usually when the boss stops by, I would first thing is I would smell him, because he had this I always say it's like, I knew it's because it was yours, but he almost smelled like this hippie smell,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if it was like some like incense or, something you were, saging or, smudging the house with. I don't know. You just have this smell that I just love. And when I was laying there, I smelt him, and then I felt like a little movement on the pillow next to me. And I don't know if I ever told you that or not.
No, was he alive then?
Yes. Yes. And I was so grateful to him for stopping by, because that was just a few days after she passed, and again that was February 2nd. So yeah, he was alive, but I was accustomed to him stopping by. But this time when he stopped by, it was different. It was very usually. Sometimes he would come in like there's this movie called Risky Business where Tom Cruise slides in on his sock. So sometimes it would be like that, like, well, hello, but this was different. This was very gentle and very loving, and I knew it was him because I know the smell and I know the feeling of him, and the fact that he stopped by and was just hanging with me during that period was just very, very special.
That was his thing. Okay, hold on one second. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Lindsay Pandya, and I'm a recovering psychologist. I have over 20 years of experience in the mental health field, but I realize there's so many limitations. I know there are quicker ways to unlock someone's healing potential and traumas, so I stepped away from being a psychologist and took the scary leap to follow my heart and provide spiritual healing full-time. I believe I have a unique perspective that can help you also step into your full potential. I provide one-on-one healing for trauma through shamanic practices, inner child work, shadow work, and so much more. My Inner Child Workshop begins May 4th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and May 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And all of the sessions will be recorded, so if you need to jump in after the workshop begins, just message me. I'd be happy to share them with you. You can learn more about what I offer and connect with me on my website at intuitivepsych.com. That's intuitivepsych.com. Join me and let's go play with your inner child and see how we can transform your traumas into treasures.
Okay, so we sometimes can get our little guys back, sometimes, or they train the next one coming in, correct?
Yeah, so the way that I would put it is that they do have the ability to come back, and if they don't come back themselves, they can handpick those that will, and they have their little paws in the mix of who it is that comes to spend time with us. And I always look at it this way, that animals are connected to us, so they're not just going to leave it up to chance for the next ones to come spend time with us, but they do kind of put it. It always feels to me like they put the word out on the street. You want to have a real good place to hang. You want to, like it just, yeah. And so they get to choose, and they make that offering, and yeah. So it's pretty cool. I like the way that they work that. But yes, they can come back themselves, or they can send others if they're not ready to come back. So,
so they have a say in who comes back to help.
Yes, they do, and it's because they love their people so much that they know what their people need. I wanted to say, I'm glad you said that because it reminded me of this. So let's just assume the boss is coming back to you. All right?
We do.
Let's just assume that's going to happen. When that happens, you may feel that it's him. You may know that it's him, he might let you know, he might do things to let you know that it's him. But you won't have to have, it's going to be different because he's done his job so well that you're not the same person that you were when you went to that shelter and adopted him.
Yeah.
So the last day of your life with him, you were a very different person than the first day that he came to live with you. And so you have grown and have an understanding and are enlightened and have a new way of experiencing your life. And so he's not going to have to come and do the things that he did before because you've done the work, you honored him, and the lessons that he taught, you understood and you grew. And so you're not going to have the exact same arrangement. Let's just pick something. So for example, maybe he won't have to wear a vest. Maybe he won't have to go to work because he feels that when he comes back, that's not something that you need in your life anymore, and it's not something that he needs to participate anymore. So now you have an arrangement where you have where he's in your life, and it's all about fun. It's not about airports. It's not about airplanes. It's not about traveling. It's not about trying to get to a gig on time. It's about what fun thing shall we do today? Maybe you go, whatever it is that you think that you want to try something new. Maybe you and Courage in this new body will go whitewater rafting.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to take the boss whitewater rafting because he's going to fly off.
I can't strap him to my chest tight enough. He could be maybe I own sheep and he's a herding dog and he's running around, bossing around the sheep.
Yes, exactly. And so you don't need him to do the things that he did for you before in the exact same way because you're not the same person.
Okay. And
that's a good thing because it means that he's done his job and you've done the work that you need to do.
And that's one of my questions for people because, I could be an old lady that needs a tired old dog for companionship. That could be the job. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
right, it could be.
Okay. But animals or dogs, they do, I won't say cats, they do like a job, right?
They do like a job. Yeah, do you mean, so they always have a purpose.
Okay.
In coming to the people that they come to. Not all of them need a job like the boss had, but yes, they like having a responsibility. They like, have you ever seen those videos of the dog? I didn't even have to see it on the video. I saw it in my neighborhood the other day. That I saw somebody open their door. The dog, it was a beautiful Irish setter, ran down to the end of the driveway, picked up the newspaper, and ran right back to the door. They opened the door, and the dog ran in with a newspaper.
So right there, good job.
So,
right?
Yeah. Yes. It's a responsibility. They were trusted to do that. It made them feel good. So let me put it this way. The boss was with you because it's at some point in your life, you developed an issue where you would choke in your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And he would wake you up. Now, did you know that when you got him? No, but he made it clear pretty soon that that's what he was able to do for you. And so that is an important thing that he's done for you. More than likely, when he comes back to you, that's not going to be part of the arrangement. Right. So that's what I'm saying to you, that what he something that was necessary for the relationship between Karen and Courage. When he comes back, you will not have those same needs that need to be met. So he's not going to do those same exact things. Even though it will feel like him, and you can see similarities, yes. So just like that, you're going to be able to know that and also start new. So I think it's very important for people to know that even when their babies come back to them,
it's not the same.
It's important. It's important to not look for that same relationship. It's important to honor their new purpose.
And I'm going to add on to that question. So, and there's two things. So one thing people forget, and this is from most trainers, you can tell me if this is wrong. The mailman comes and your dog barks and barks and barks, and you yell at him, shut up. When a dog is barking and you're yelling at them, they think you're barking along with them. Is that correct?
Something like that. I would take it a step further and to say that if they're barking and you just yell at them to shut up, they've told me numerous times, yeah, but they didn't really mean it.
Right. So let's take that back a step. Yeah. So if you do sort of a dog whisperer thing and sort of show them shh instead of yelling, that's good. But also, if they do that before you shush them, isn't it a good thing to go, thank you for warning me? Someone was, or it's sort of like that's their job. Their job is to protect the house. So don't diminish that job.
Exactly. To say whatever term somebody comes up with, to say thank you, I've got it. Thank you, I appreciate it. Whatever it is, yes, I think that I think acknowledging what they're doing is a very big deal. And by just assuming that they're being a pain or difficult, kind of diminishes what they're doing, and also it's confusing. So what happens is, and animals will pick up on, first and foremost, other people's energy. And so everything you think, everything you say, and then actions you take all hold energy. And what they try to do in great part, as like, this is kind of a big picture, is that they want for their people to begin to view things in the way that they want it to be. And I can't tell you how many times, how many conversations I've had with people about a variety of different situations when the animals bring it back around to this, that they want their people to focus on what they want them to do. So let's just, since everybody's familiar with Courage, let's just talk about him. So in other words, it would be that you, Karen, need to speak to Courage about the things that you want him to do and not the things that you don't want him to do. Because he's getting the energy that goes along with what it is that you're saying. And if you're saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, whatever that thing is, it's reinforcing that thing. So what you do is, you shift that to do this. And that's exactly what you're talking about when you're saying to let go of, stop barking, shut up, be, knock it off, be quiet, whatever, you're such a pain, stop, shift that to what do you want them to do? Is it, and it's just as you said, that they're alerting you to the fact that somebody's there. You can thank them. You can, whatever verbiage somebody comes up with, it's important to put that in the category of a positive statement.
So you could,
because the energy is different for a positive thought than a negative thought. So, and the animal is going to pick up on whatever it is that you're talking about. So you might as well make the effort to talk to them in the positive.
So you could do a picture of them barking at the door, and then when you come to the door, they sit quietly. They know that you know, so they sit quietly, and you give them a thank you.
Yes, and the key to this is they've got to mean it. They've got to believe it. Because oftentimes what will happen is the animals have shown me that their person will say something, but they don't mean it.
Mm.
They're not committed to that. And so that the words might be out there, but the thought and the energy has not changed. Is still in the, focus on, don't do that. Well, animals don't operate in good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is. So when whatever it is that you're talking about, they're picking up on what you're talking about, but it's that vibration that's connected to it.
The intention that's not confusing. Okay.
Yeah, so if you're saying don't, stop barking. Well, what do they hear? Barking.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to say, that's enough, what do they hear is that's enough. It's okay.
Perfect. Okay. To jump to one other thing, I think I started this question and then we got off on a track. When they're going to pass, and Courage still had the blockage, but he was like soft in my arms. So when they know they're going, I think you said he was sort of an in-between place. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the question was like, why wasn't he spinning and hurting when they handed him to me?
Yeah. Because animals have this amazing ability to actually leave their bodies before their bodies stop breathing. So they have this ability to not have to deal with the discomfort, to not have to, especially in that situation too. The boss at that point, if you look, it will talk about it in these terms. His job was done.
Mm.
There was no reason for him to stay in that discomfort anymore. It was done. You were right there. You made the last and most loving, decision that you could on his behalf. The way that you've treated him his whole entire life. And, this was just the last, act of love.
Yeah.
And he was there. It was done. There was no reason for him to stay and to feel any more discomfort. So he can leave his body. That doesn't mean that he's not alive. That doesn't mean that he's not aware. What it means is that he has and all animals have the ability to leave their bodies before things get either pain is going to be felt, or in his case, just the utter exhaustion and the continuation of this extremely uncomfortable body of his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had once told me there was, when California really had those wildfires and the animals were running away, trying to get out of the fire, you had said that they showed you they were about maybe a foot out of their body. So it wasn't that they weren't feeling the pain, but they could sort of elevate a little bit out of it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And I don't know if this will make any sense or not, but I also saw others that were a bit higher than that. I would say about 3 feet off the ground, but there was not a solid body with them, but it's actually one that had left the body.
Mm.
And so, yes, when all of that was happening, because the reason that I got to that point and was talking to them is because I remember that hurt so bad to think about, the animals stuck in that situation, entrapped in, and that hurt my heart so much to thinking of them being hurt. And, so then I asked them about that, and that's when they showed me that they had that's what they had done. They have this ability, and they took advantage of it to leave their bodies while all of this was going on.
Which,
yeah. So what you're saying is, yes, they left their body so that they weren't really truly connected. They weren't all the way in there, so that they didn't have to deal with it the way that we think about it. That we would experience something. It was different. And then some of them, of course, when they didn't have the opportunity to stay and go back in their body, then those are the other ones that I'm describing that showed themselves without a body.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep, the ones that passed.
Okay.
And these last two questions really should be for anybody that, and this is me, I still cannot watch those horrible commercials where they show the saddest animals in the world. And to help people know how much they can help and how much they can't. I remember once I was in a dog had got hit right in front of her house. And the dog, I didn't see the hit, but the body was just in the street. And I was like, I can't handle it. And you had shown me, you said, don't worry, because the little dog was like, I was running. And then he said, whoosh, like something pulled him out of he was like, whoosh, it happened so fast. You kept telling me he had been pulled out of his body before the pain or when it hit. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was a real. I remember that you were so upset by the idea that this little guy got hit, and it was just so traumatic. And yes, I remember that little guy, and he was just in an instant was out of his body, so he didn't experience that.
That's good for people to know if their dog got hit by a car or something.
Yeah, and another thing too is that it's everything that happens with animals. There's a reason for it. Like they take every opportunity to get somebody's attention, to shift somebody, to make somebody aware, to give somebody an opportunity for healing, to get somebody to be able to see things in a different way, or just to feel maybe. So again, we'll go back to the boss chose this little tiny adorable body to be in. How many people did he affect just by them seeing him?
Everyone smiled.
So then, right. And so then there are those animals that are chained up, that there are those of us that feel like we're so, our hearts hurt seeing that. And then, we can take steps, take action for that to be changed. Everything that they go through is an opportunity for humans to move forward. And without getting into it too much, even those people that, what I would call, which I do call surface dwellers, the ones that don't go very deep at all, the ones that live superficially, just on the surface, not interested in understanding anything deeper, right?
The 3D world. Yep.
Yes. Those people, even if it's lost on them and they don't get it, they don't get what the message was about, it's not like the animals think that, oh, well, this was worthless. This wasn't worth, doing or going through. I mean, if we think that because we see the outcome, the truth is that the animals are here to move the humans forward. And whatever that takes, they're willing to do.
And so if they get the good karma, even if the human doesn't.
Yeah, it's so funny that you put it this way, because I just had a thought that, it was just my thoughts, not from the animals, but I thought, I bet animals are our good karma. I bet they are our good karma can come back to us. Because I can't think of anything better. And you said, like, if you look at an animal's eyes, and whatever you believe in, and my experience is that I just put it that, if you believe that there is a God, and you want to see God, you just look into an animal's eyes.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it is that high, fine vibration that's just pure love.
And you kind of answered my question about, I was going to say about how I went to that rescue and I saw that one dog and I was like, oh my, and you were like, you can't rescue all of them. And that dog is waiting for its job. But I'll end with this story. And by the way, thank you so much, Sonya. This is such a fantastic podcast for anyone that loves animals. So I was, Courage got his back broken by some idiot who had this dog that he wouldn't keep on a leash. And the dog was in the road and all over. And the guy was like, it's just a dog. He's having fun, whatever. And the dog jumped on Courage's back sideways. And that was always, his tail was never up again. This was always an issue. So I hated when people didn't have their dogs on leash. And that's in a city. They were always so too close to the road, whatever. So I used to ride on a bike trail and I would see this guy and he was obviously, he was disabled and he didn't walk right and his neck was over, but he would be walking the trail. And behind him would come this tiny old Yorkie, not on a leash. And my first thought was, you got to yell at this guy. And then I watched, and I would see them every day. And that little Yorkie, struggling to keep up with his owner, I just felt like he was so proud that he was by his owner's side no matter what. And it was like, okay, this is a different situation. The dog was struggling and yet he seemed so happy to be with this guy. It was really beautiful.
Yeah. So in other words, that dog was living on purpose.
Yeah. And it was
that.
Oh, I'm sorry. And it was about, you know what? Most 99% of dogs needed to be on a leash. Then I looked and I thought, I don't know if this guy could hold a leash. I don't know if that dog would be okay with a leash, but it was just different. It wasn't some crazy dog running out. It was like, every situation is not the same.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson for any of us in any situation, right? Because, nowadays everybody is just, I think that's a great lesson. About not judging what we think we see. Yep.
Yeah. Sonya, you're just brilliant. And I'm so thankful to the boss for making you my friend. Tell everybody where to go to book a reading or listen to your podcast.
Yes, you can go to my website, and that is sonyaking.com. It's SONYKING. .com and
SONYA. You forgot an A. SONYAKING.
I always do that.
You're such a rush to get to the king part because you have such that giant ego. You're such a king.
So SONYAKING.com. And on there is a link that says Talk to the Animals. And you can go on there and you can just make an appointment.
Yes. And she also has a podcast she does called Josh Has Autism with her son that has autism. That's fantastic. And also, soon enough, you should have some comedy dates on there, I'm thinking.
Yes.
And the big prize would be when I'm announcing comedy dates with you and I on the road. That's going to be great.
That's going to be awesome because we're both on the same coast now, so we can do that again.
Yes, absolutely. We'll do our paranormal comic show where you read animals and I read cards. We'll get it together.
Yep.
All right.
We'll
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sonya.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Big hugs.
Thanks. Everybody, thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Check out my Patreon, book a reading at karenrontowski.com. It's good to be back, and I hope you all stayed with me through the break. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week.